Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
This is Pip. Tell me, when we're about to start the show, have you ever been in an environment where the culture was bad and you thought about their productivity? Have you ever wanted to improve the culture and make it a happier place? Or maybe you know that by having a happier place that you're going to get more out of your team, your staff, and probably yourself. Hello and welcome. My name is Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, and I help business owners with referral systems to grow their business. And today's promise is I have a very special guest with us today, Pip, who's going to talk to us about team cultures and the effect that they can have within your organization. Please join me in welcoming Pip. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Good. Tell me, whereabouts are you today?
I'm working from my home office, just outside of Maitland, getting a bit close to Hunter Valley.
Okay. And how long have you been living there?
I've been in this house. We built about a year ago, just over a year. Been in the area 2 years now, I'd say.
Okay. All right. So you're relatively new into my space, although I've seen your name before and have definitely seen the brand. But for the people on the show for maybe the first time, can you just explain to us a little bit about yourself? Tell people who you are.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So my name's Pip. I'm the director and founder of Premier Team Building. If you haven't noticed, I speak a little bit differently. I'm Canadian. I've been in Australia for about 10 and a bit years, coming maybe to 11. Kind of lost count. I've been in the leadership and team building industry for the past 17 years here in Australia, back in Canada, and a few other countries where I've had the pleasure of visiting for some clients as well. My logo stands out relatively well. See it pop up there, a nice little wolf logo itself. So some people become fond and familiar with the branding itself for Premier Team Building. But ultimately, I'm all about helping leaders be better leaders and workplaces be happier and more motivated to really succeed.
When I think about leaders, when I was much younger, I used to think it was just the boss. And the older I've got, the now I realize that I could be the leader or the person who's in control of my own life. So when you talk about leadership, what is it you mean?
So my big focus is workplace leadership, and you're definitely right. It ties heavily into your personal life and having control. And I find leadership really transforms in a few different layers. It's within the workplace and within your personal life, and it's helping guide people, being a positive influence, helping make those decisions, those hard calls, and being a light in some dark times, especially as things have been going on right now. You're kind of the lighthouse in the ocean. That's the leader for the ships. So they say, where to go, where not to go, and point in the direction of some safer waters to travel. And that's kind of what leadership really means to me.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me a little bit about who are the people that you generally serve? I mean, I looked on your website and I've seen, there seems to be a whole lot of people playing in parks and doing team building exercises. But who are the organizations that and clients that you normally serve?
Yeah, definitely. So we work with teams of all different sizes. Our group programs, we've designed them to be with teams as small as 4. We've had the pleasure of working with Delta Electrical down at Lake Macquarie, 2 of their big groups. Terumo BCT, they are a medical organization. They produce a lot of the pumps. If you've ever donated blood or anything, chances are they were responsible for much of the equipment that was used in that space. Worked with a few small gymnastics teams like Gymnastics 21, a local amazing gymnast team. And we also do school programs because I feel really passionate about making sure that young people grow to be leaders, to hopefully stop some of the problems we see as we employ some people. And we've done with some amazing work with the police legacy program as well. So the children who've lost family members in the line of duty. Those just to name a few of the different companies we've had the pleasure of working with here locally.
So I know that when you first came to Australia and you did a lot of work with a company called Treetops.
I did, yeah.
Is that because it was the young leaders sort of thing?
It did, yeah. Definitely got to work with a bunch of different schools and younger people through that process. I have a big history of working at youth camps back in Canada and here in Australia as well, besides just at the Treetops, the ropes courses. But through Treetops, we really got to expand and working with more younger people as they came out and helping them realize their potential and helping them navigate what was holding them back and helping them overcome some simple fears, be it fear of failing or falling, which often tie in well with one another. And Treetops was a fantastic place to really help teams work on trust and communication. It was great there.
My last call, I just had to admit that to them, I said, listen, I know what you're going through. I also have the fear of failure, and I did for many, many years. And that really made sure that I played really quite small. And yet, since I understand now that that failure is a part of the process and then it's part of the learning, that, I just try and play as big as I can now. It's okay to fail.
Yeah, failure is scary. However, it's how we learn. If everything was perfect, we don't really learn what to actually do. We're just rolling with it, and we don't learn those coping techniques. So making mistakes, not make lots, is a great way to really learn.
Michael Jordan, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's correct.
So tell me, would you say that working with Treetops was one of those contracts or deals that you got that, you felt like, wow, I'm really moving the business forward now, and because I'm getting this particular program in, I'll be able to train lots and lots of kids. Was that one of those defining moments in the business history?
Definitely, yeah. So at the time I was working with them, it was a space that they weren't really playing in yet, and they had a fantastic opportunity to get more involved with the corporate and school leadership programs. I had the pleasure of really expanding my skill base by developing programs for them to be able to implement themselves, to really create their own leadership corporate training programs that they could then continue to offer without my assistance as well. It was a very big stepping stone for me to see the full potential of what I could do to propel me into launching this business.
Cool. So I think by now people have got a good sort of insight into who you are and what you do, and the clients you just sort of serve, and I guess how the business has sort of morphed. At the beginning part of the show, I talked to people about culture, bad culture, good culture. What are you going to do? How do you change it? So I really just want to spend a little bit of time in that sort of area. So if you're on the Facebook Live, either on my business page or in the Facebook group, what I'd like you to do is to just pop your questions in the feed, and Pip and I will get to those at the very end. We'll make sure that we deal with all of those. But if you've got leadership or culture situations, if you could put, say, an example of what's sort of going on. You don't have to say the organization you work for, but just mention what's sort of going on, and then perhaps Pip can give you some insights into that at the end of the show. Does that sound fair, Pip?
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us an example and tell us a story about culture?
Definitely. Well, I've been speaking to a couple of people recently about this. It's been really in the forefront of my mind. And it comes down to responsibility versus fault. Now, there's a fantastic book, and I recommend people look into it. It's called Extreme Ownership. It's written by an ex-Navy SEAL, Jocko, and his friend Leif. And they discuss the ideas of leaders. We need to own everything. Everything comes to us. We are responsible for everything. Now, speaking with people in some firsthand experience, I found that a lot of leaders mistake that for blame. If something doesn't go right, they want to blame themselves, or they think this concept is telling them that they need to blame. What it's actually saying is you need to be responsible. There's two different actions and mental states you approach this from. When it's a blame and a fault, it's all negative. You're hard on yourself. You're simply saying you did not do well, you did wrong, and there's no room for growth. There's no room for learning in this process. But when you're responsible and say, I could have done X, Y, and Z to be better, you're reviewing the process. And it's allowing you to actually grow as an individual and as a leader, as a team. I see this a lot with businesses where there's a real blame culture. No one wants to take time to review what's gone right and what's gone wrong. And they move from project to project. And when something fails, they just blame one another. what that does is it creates a blame culture. People are afraid to try new things. People are not willing to put themselves out there because they've seen so many individuals get shot down and blamed and belittled. So it's a very stifling environment when you don't have the concept of responsibility versus fault and blame. So this book has really illustrated for a number of clients I've worked with the importance of being responsible, and to review what's happened and to say that you as a leader can do better, but not blaming, not being too hard on yourself, because when you always look back, you're never looking forward, and that's not how we grow. These really negative environments, they stifle creativity. It really stifles progress within the business. If you don't have a team who's willing to try new ideas for being afraid of being at fault or being blamed or being belittled, you're never going to develop those new products. You're not going to make those mistakes. And as we said, mistakes are a great way to learn. So we need those times of responsibility and say, yes, I was responsible for my actions. The way to look at this is we think back into school. We're taking tests and exams. If I fail an exam, whose fault? Who's at fault? Who's responsible for this? I could blame the teacher and say, "Oh, you did not teach me correctly. You did not communicate the language properly. It's your fault." But in reality, I'm responsible for saying, "Hey, I don't understand. I don't get this. I need more help." And if I don't do that, I'm responsible for my own failure. And by me reaching out and saying, "No, I need a little bit more clarity. I need to understand these things. I'm willing to listen and take on that feedback, and it's going to allow me to grow as an individual." And that's what we need to foster within our teams, to have that community, so that when someone feels uncertain about something, they say, "Hey, Glenn, I've got some questions. Can you clarify this?" And I'm not worried about you belittling them and making them feel silly or stupid, saying, "I've already told you to do this." It's once again that blame thing. It's cool, as a leader, I'm responsible. I need to make sure my team understands. So I need to make them feel welcome to that. And that's where the culture really ties into, growth and safety and creativity. If people feel safe in a workplace, they're going to be more creative. They're going to be willing to make mistakes and learn from those.
As soon as you mentioned the two words, blame versus responsibility, one, it comes from a point of empowerment. And the other one, you're right, it does. It has all these negative connotations. I think it's very easy for people to blame themselves. I certainly have done it for many, many years.
Right.
But it was a spiraling situation. There's no real positive way to claw yourself out besides forget that and just chalk it down to going, you know what, tomorrow's a better day. And the reality is that it doesn't. You just fester that and just bring it into the next day. Is that how culture sort of starts? Somebody comes in with a blame sort of situation, and then it just grows and grows and grows through the organization?
It does. Culture can either be a positive or negative parasite within a workplace environment. If we have a small team of 3 and there's a culture of blame, every time a new person's brought into the team, they're growing, that parasite's attaching into them, because there's those whispers behind the scenes saying, "Oh, don't bring some new ideas, don't try anything new. You're going to get blamed when it goes wrong." Rather than promoting that, be responsible for your ideas, follow through, and if it makes a mistake, review. But when you have that negative idea, it gets passed on from generation to generation. And as businesses grow, this can be really detrimental. When we're 20 years in the business and we have 3rd or 4th generation employees coming through, that festering seed of blame culture has gone through everywhere. And if you really look at where people are willing to try new things or not, the hindrance is massive. A great example is 3M sticky hooks. Have you heard the story of where those come from? It's a fantastic one. So 3M, most of us have used it. I got a package here on my desk that hangs some new diplomas I'm getting. The individual who's making the glue was trying to make a super strong glue, which he obviously failed at. The glue they used is not that strong. It's good, but it's not unbreakable. And they have a culture of sharing resources and being responsible for your ideas. and he shared this mistake. And someone else said, I have this idea. I need to find ways to keep my notes when I'm singing hymns at church. And they realized that this glue would be a great temporary thing. So because they did not have a blame culture, he was not worried about, oh man, I've wasted all this time and money on a product that's not going to work. I'm going to hide it, I'm going to sweep it under the rug. I'm just going to pretend like I'm going to fix it somehow. He was actually able to share it, and it's now one of their leading products. Like, most of us have it in their homes. It's all over the place. It's because they were responsible for ideas, and it wasn't a blame culture.
That's very much that's a fantastic story. And, when you said, have you heard it before? I guess the first thing could be, yes, of course I've heard it before, right? Which comes from that sort of, I don't want to be in trouble, like I've done the wrong thing, right? Of course I've heard of it before. I'm in marketing, right? But that voids any possibility of learning. So I said, well, actually, I haven't heard it, right? You created that space, and therefore I heard a fantastic story that I actually hadn't heard before. I didn't realize that's the way the Post-it notes sort of came about, but kind of makes sense. But imagine that where interdepartments from the same organization have shared resources and come out with one of their most famous products. Right, that's what a lot of people know them as. And without that culture, they definitely wouldn't have it. Because it really does start from being a child. When you drop something, people are like, "What did you do that for?" Whereas I saw a video the other day where a mum sort of walks up to a little boy, and they show what happens when you drop an egg. It smashes, but the boy gets to do it and goes, "Oh!" And then they break it down and turn it into a biology lesson with the egg. Right. So, yes, the egg got broken. Yes, it's on the floor, but they made it a real positive sort of experience for the child. So he didn't think that, because something breaks doesn't mean that, it's bad. The same way as when you drop a plate, you can start to do something mosaic. All right. There is positives there if you embrace that sort of going, okay, well, I dropped the plate. That was my responsibility. But what can we do with all of this sort of information now? And when you start to think like that, you're going, okay, that's all right. I can move forward with that. But the moment that you squash the ideas,
it's cause and effect. What dropped the plate? What caused me to do this? What was, is there a way that I can solve? Is there a problem that I was unaware of? Oh, there's a trip hazard. Okay, well, whose fault is it? Well, I could have, looked around me and seen the trip hazard, so I am responsible. I'm responsible for now solving this problem that I've discovered. It's, I broke a plate, like I said, hide it, finds, cause and effect. What can I use these pieces for now? What have I learned from the process? What's caused this process? And how can I grow? Now, I talk to leaders about this all the time is, what lessons have you learned from your mistakes? A lot of people, don't review that.
What can you do if you're not the leader of the organization? I mean, a lot of people think it's positional power, all right? It just has to be the CEO or the manager. But how can you affect change then if you're not that particular person?
Being open, listening to people's ideas, listening and being aware of who's being shy and quiet. As a member of a team, if you're all equal, quite often there's someone in the team who's loud and boisterous, who commands the attention, who we view as the leader because they're loud. Loud people, and I'm one, they often don't know what they're talking about. They just sound powerful because they talk a good game. So to be a great leader, if you can observe those around you and hear and pick up on those cues where someone's about to say something and they hold themselves back because the loud person jumped in, supporting that person, say, you know what, Sally over there, she looked like she was about to say something, or Sally, you told me something the other day. I can't remember exactly. Can you, remind me what we were talking about when we were discussing how to cook the burgers at McDonald's yesterday? You said an idea, and to empower that person, although they're equal, you're gaining. And a lot of people, unfortunately, want to, what can I get out of being a good leader? And by doing that, you're going to show your empathy and you'll stand out as a leader. So people are going to be willing to come to you and voice their ideas if they're uncertain. And they're also going to feel that you might will have their back if you bring forward an idea. And so if you're just an equal with the team, listening to people, being that someone who they can speak with, hear their ideas, discuss ideas, we use a principle called okay how. Anytime an idea is thrown out, good idea, bad idea, whatever, we always approach it with, okay, how do we do this? So regardless, we work through that process with our clients, our team. So the idea to have might be not necessarily a good one, but they're in the process, we find all the nuggets of gold. So if you want to be a great leader, if you can approach it saying, okay, that's a good idea, how can we make this happen? Gives ownership to them and to you to follow through with that. And that's probably one of my best ones. If you're on the level with someone else, anytime someone has an idea, don't shoot it down. Say, okay, how can we make this happen? Make them work through the processes with you, hear them out, and then work with them to grow that, and then boost them up. Say, John over here, he had a fantastic idea. Tell the team, John, about how we can solve that leaky tap.
So, so really anyone in the organization can have that sort of approach, because when you go, okay, how, it does require a little bit of listening time, doesn't it? And patience. So sometimes the loud, boisterous person is not the best at patience. And but I know that when someone feels heard, they sort of like, you know what, I enjoyed that process. I feel like doing it again. And it's just getting that positive, creative, moving forward sort of approach with everybody in the team.
We do a number of programs where we tell people to stop talking. We tell the loud people to say, no, sorry, you're done talking. You quiet person in the corner, you're now in charge. Only you can speak. And it's amazing to see the empowerment that person has for the first time, being the voice, and to see their managers, other leaders kind of go, wow, they have some amazing ideas, but they've been overshadowed.
Correct. I think, and is that the sort of work that you love really doing, bringing in that sort of whole team? I noticed when we were talking before off air that in order to work with a client, they need to have a willingness to want to make things better. That's one of the comments that you sort of made. Is that sort of something that is comes from the owner or the business manager or something like that, so saying, hey, we want to change, we just don't know what we need to do? Is that the first step for them?
Yes, 100%. Often say people, the first step of being a great leader is to admit that you too can change, and to admit that you might not have all the answers, and that's totally fine. Like, we love getting our team, like teams of people together, to help them build as a unit so they can all lean and support on one another. But it does come down to the leaders and the managers who want to improve their teams, who really want to grow the business, who know that there's something lacking and there's something that needs to be improved. They just don't know what, and they don't know how they themselves can change. So there's a moment of humility and say, we need to fix this.
Do you think does it come across, say, a particular organization? Is it like the sales people or the admin people or marketing? Do you find that you get better results from working any special departments?
Not really. A bit of such a variety of different departments, and everything we do is custom tailored to who the client is. So making sure that if we're focusing on communication, we're referring to either body language or the verbal language, depends on how they interact with each other and their customers. But ultimately, humility and willingness to grow and expand, those are the key factors that the teams need to have. If you approach it with, this is never going to work, and you come with that negative mindset, you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to improve. So it's a waste of time and money. And I've told that to clients before where, I can see from the beginning, I'm like, you're not invested. You don't believe in this. This is a line on your budget that you need to fill. So, maybe you should do something different, because you can do more damage than good by this. If you're willing to actually improve, let's seriously talk about what needs to be improved. And I'm not going to hold any punches.
When I used to run a business called BNI in Hunter Valley and Newcastle Central Coast sort of area, I used to take the team away on these types of events all the time. And we used to sort of every year sort of going, this is what the expected budget is. So we're allowing this particular budget for, the development of the team leaders. And we used to go off and do all these sort of crazy exercises. And what gelled the sort of team together. I mean, I didn't lose a director or ambassador, in 9 years. Everybody just wanted to stay on the team because it was fun. It was a culture that everybody sort of embraced, and I really miss that.
And they feel safe.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, everybody had a good idea, and that was the strength of the organization, really, because I have a certain way of thinking about things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the best one. So by allowing other people to come on board and toss in their ideas, I also learned a lot about myself too. One of the comments that someone said was, "Glenn, you're exhausting to be around," right? And I went, "Oh, okay," because to her to me, it was just my normal life. But you do learn a lot about your teams. Tell me, Pip, what has been the biggest challenge for you in growing your business?
Well, the team building culture and business model in Australia is still relatively new. It's big in UK, it's big in Canada and America. We're here in Australia. I do find it's still very much small. A lot of people have some very outdated ideas of what it is we do. Firstly, it's not singing Kumbaya. We're not wearing white cloaks and going in mud baths. Those ideas are very much outdated, unless that's what you're into, and then do that. If that's what your team needs, 100%. But for what we do is very much engaging. What we prefer to do is hands-on active activities. You commented on a photo of us earlier. We were down by the lakeside playing some games with some wooden sticks. It's fun, it's engaging. We do archery tag, just to list a very flashy program. But a lot of people, the struggle we found is just trying to convince them that there is value in this, and having to point out on their spreadsheets and on their budgets where they're wasting money by not investing in their team. And that's one of the biggest struggles we've found within the Australian market, is that sometimes people don't see between the lines, and those old ideas of singing Kumbaya and holding hands and dancing around a fire is what they envision when it comes to team building, not, playing mini golf to donate cans of food to charities and, building dog houses. Like, these are team building activities, it's hands-on active.
But you can see how much it would be costing a business, though, if you've got your staff and they're not invested in the overall business. I mean, no one's really going to care as much as the owner, right? Most people get that. But if your team's not invested and they're just coming in and just get a paycheck and then leave at the end of the day, imagine the productivity that could go up, and imagine the extra sales that could come if your team was really understanding what they're trying to do, and then heavily relied and took ideas from everybody else rather than just sort of going, "Oh, they're the boss, just don't worry about it and just listen to them."
Yeah, when you have a happy, motivated team, they're delivering better customer service, and the customers are going to come back, which makes you busier, which gives you a more safe work environment, because you're not worried about losing your job because customers are coming. They know you by name, they've connected, so that they're name dropping you. It's like, "Oh, when's Glenn in next time? I want to chat with him because he helped me with this product last time." It makes you safe. But when you don't have those, it's really counterintuitive. You're feeling threatened that business is slow, and you're worried about losing shifts. But when that culture is not there, you don't care enough to actually try to do more. You're not willing to put more effort into it, which is hindering itself, in the process. Because if you're not willing to do more, the customers are losing, and you lose in the end.
So I've just looked in the chat bar. We don't have any questions just yet. But if you watch this on the replay and you do have a question, please pop it in. Or if you found an organization that you think has an example of bad culture or good culture, what I'd like you to just do is to particularly write the organization and then just sort of saying, "Well, I think this is an example of bad culture," or consequently, we'd like to know the companies that are out there that are doing it well. If that's your organization, please pop that in. And Pip and I are going to be in there over the next week or so, and we'll make comments and feedback on that. Pip, thanks very much for joining us today. What would be the people's first step after listening to this interview? How would you like to engage with them? Tell us about the first time that someone meets with you.
So things are a bit challenging right now, but restrictions are lifting, which is fantastic. I would love to take time out of my day, and hopefully out of your day, to have a chat and meet with you over the phone over Zoom, Google Hangout, whatever it might be. And, when times permits, go for a coffee to talk, hear you out, hear what your struggles are, hear really what your goals are, to see, if I can give you any golden nuggets of how to alter your perception of your leadership and really empower you to empower those around you. Just a social, relaxed chat like this is to hear you out. Sorry, I've just unfortunately lost my volume. I'm not sure. Technical difficulties. I'm not sure why.
I can still hear you.
Oh, I can hear you now. Perfect. I'm not sure what happened there.
I turned my mic off. Sorry about that, because I was just quickly wanted to go in and get your email address, and I didn't want to hear everybody going tap, 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 tap. Sorry about that. And you had the panic attack of sort of going, oh, what's the matter with my audio? Is it here?
Yeah, I was like, oh, no, technical difficulties. It's always that way.
Look, I'm going to pop your email address in the chat bar, and that'll go both to my page and also to the Facebook group. So if you've got a question, you want to reach out to Pip directly. I have to say that for people watching, I don't bring a guest on lightly onto the show. I don't take money. I don't take, I've got to promote them. I get on people on this particular show because they add value and because I believe in what they do. Okay, so it's the first thing you've got to know about the Better Business Place show. I do a extensive interview on them prior to them coming on, and then I get them to fill out a questionnaire, and then I go and do a lot of research to make sure that what they say is who they are, right? So I check out the good reviews, the bad reviews, and everyone. So if someone's coming on this particular show, it's because I've been behind the scenes and done my investigation first, okay? I've done a lot of these types of exercises myself. I can't tell you that how invaluable I think they are into building your team. If you've got a shitty culture, if you work in a place that's really bad culture, you've really got two choices. You can leave, you can shut it down, or you can do something about it. My option is I think you can do something about it. And Pip has shown you today, whether or not you're the owner, the business manager, or even someone working within the organization, sort of saying, okay, the how method, that things can be done. Don't just sit down and spend another day, another shift on working in that environment, because it is costing you. All right. Any final words? What I thought about, say, a bonus or something like that. You said you had something.
Definitely. I definitely have a bonus. I'm going to say to really echo what you just said. An analogy I'd given a while ago to some clients was we often care about our bodies and our vehicles more than we do our teams. To keep your warranty on your vehicle, you need to maintain your services. If you don't, you lose the warranty, it falls apart. So many of us are willing to go to the chiropractor on a weekly, monthly, fortnightly, whatever basis. Some of us go to doctors regularly, go to the gym. We do all these things regularly to stop breakdown. It's all about being proactive. Now, as much as team building is fantastic to solve problems, it's going to cost you more. I'm not going to lie. If you want to do it cheap, do it regularly when you don't have problems, because we're maintaining a level of excellence. When you hit the bottom, we got to go up. There's a lot more work and a lot more time you're going to need to do. So get ahead of the curve. If you're seeing issues, start fixing them now. Don't wait. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But for a free, I want to give something out to everybody. Despite the fact that we do a lot of group stuff, we're also launching our one-on-one coaching. I would love to offer anyone who's interested a free 30-minute consult with me on the phone to address your needs, your goals, and to give you those golden nuggets to make sure that we can start you and your team on the path to success. So if you want a 30-minute free phone consult, Zoom, or if we're local in the cafes, let us have a coffee. Let's do that. Sit down. Let's get out of our homes. Let's get engaged, and let's see how we can help one another.
I miss having that coffee, but I do like the Zooms as well. Hey, that's a great offer. Thank you so much. Just reach out to Pip using the contact details in the chat bar, or get in contact with me. Either way, I'll put you in contact with you. Thank you so much. All right. My name is Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, signing off with a reminder to make, build, and share connections. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.